There's a new class, a new initiative I'm trying to start, and it's already the new year, so this year. I did a series in the last couple of years of learning with my rabbis, talking with different teachers I've had about some of the lessons they taught me, the Torah that they bring into the world. So the new idea I have for a series with some different rabbis and scholars across the Jewish world and spectrum, beyond just those I've had the pleasure of learning with, I stole actually from a magazine that publishes an annual essay contest. And a number of years ago, it's a science and technology magazine, the topic of their essay was "This idea must die." And they asked different experts in different fields to submit short essays, just a few hundred words, on a different topic, an idea that they believe that people have about science and the scientific world that people shouldn't really believe in, that's actually detrimental to the progress of science and humanity. So I'm interested in doing a similar topic about Jewish ideas. What are ideas that are held by many Jews and yet not something our tradition really requires us to believe? Or ideas that aren't even held by Jews, but that many Jews think our tradition requires them to believe, and are actually holding us back from living the most meaningful Jewish lives that we can live. And I'm very excited because I've gotten a few different rabbis on board from different streams and different movements. Some people that I didn't think would want to sit down and talk to me, but they're interested and intrigued by this idea of short 15, 20-minute talks, easily digestible on different topics and ideas. But this morning, I want to share one that I personally think we need to stop believing in. And it's a question that I've heard over and over and over in the last couple of years. An idea that's easy to come to. Because we've had very difficult years. Today I'm talking to a rather small crowd here in Synagogue. And in some ways it feels not that different from where I stood last year at the same time. Sure, now I'm triple vaccinated, but still, COVID's around. We can't gather together again safely as a community. There are people who are sick. There are people who are dying. There is suffering in the world. So the question people naturally ask is, why does God let bad things happen to good people? Because we know there are good people who are suffering. But I don't like that question. And the problem with that question is that it accepts a premise that I think we really need to lay to rest. It's predicated on a belief in a God that I can't understand, let alone begin to relate to. A God that can control the world and is therefore choosing who will suffer. It implies we imagine a God looking down somewhere and picking, deciding, so-and-so is a bad person, let's give them cancer. Or maybe they're not so bad, let's just tank the stocks they have, their investments, let them lose their life savings. It suggests that we think that that's the way the world should work. Why do good things happen to bad people? Comes from a belief that God should only let bad things happen to bad people. That God controls who good things happen to and who bad things happen to. The opposite side of that is the explanations people start to come to. Because we all know there are good people who suffer. There are good people that bad things happen to. So how do we explain that when we believe in that kind of a world? That God picks and chooses who suffers and who's rewarded. We get responses like Job's friends. It's a test. God gives good people suffering because they can handle it. It's a chance for them to prove how good they really are. Maybe there's a lesson they will learn from this experience. It'll be a growth opportunity. Who knows? Maybe they'll become even better. I can't relate to that God. And the truth is, we want to imagine the universe works that way, that it has that kind of order. But it leads to some really awful things. We've all heard of various clergy who like to blame natural disasters on sins. Homosexuality has been a popular topic as a blame for why we have COVID, why the world's in this pandemic. Society has accepted homosexuality, different ministers and preachers have said, even a rabbi in Israel. And that's why COVID-19 has been spreading around the world. But we believe the world's supposed to work in a certain way, that God is behind the plagues, the earthquakes, the fires, the disease. We end up believing things that are really quite horrific. But I don't believe that God chooses who gets cancer or whose investments will crash. I don't think God picks who's going to win a hockey game or who's going to stub their toe. And I don't think God has anything to do with COVID-19. And I think the idea that the world works that way is one we can jettison, that our Judaism will be better off if we do. But the question then still remains, where is God in all of this? Where do we find God? People are suffering, good people. Where is God? It's the question Moses confronts God with at the ending of last week's parsha. Lo hitzlata et amecha. You, God, you have not saved your people. Moses is asking God. He's demanding of God, where are you? Your people are suffering. Why? Why haven't you come to their rescue? It's an important question. And a question that each of us, I think, is likely to have asked at some point in our lives. We've probably asked it recently in the last couple of years. But it's again predicated on that belief that God controls everything, that bad things happen for a reason. And our parsha begins this week with God returning Moses' question with an answer. Vaydaber Elohim el Moshe vayomer elav ani Adonai. God spoke to Moses and said to him, I am the Lord. Va'era el Avraham el Yitzchak vel Yaakov. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob. That's God's answer. Where have you been? I am God. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Talk about a non sequitur. Talk about an answer that doesn't address the question. Moses cries out, where are you? Your people are suffering. I am God. I appeared to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The rabbis in the Midrash, in rabbinic legend, they fill in this dialogue and they explain what the answer really is that God is giving him. Moses asks, where are you? Why are you standing by while your people suffer? And God says, I appeared to Abraham. I promised him I would lead him to a land that would belong for generations to him and his descendants, a great nation. Yet when he got to that land, when his wife died, and he needed a plot of land, a place to bury his wife, he had to pay for it. Did he complain? No. He acted. I'm the God that appeared to Isaac, the same Isaac that I promised again a land to for him and his descendants, a great nation. And yet he had to fight with his neighbors to even find water for his flocks. Did he complain? Did he criticize? No. He acted. I am the God that appeared to Jacob, that promised him and his descendants a great land, a nation I would build out of them. Yet he couldn't find a place to pitch his tent without paying for it. And he too didn't criticize me. He didn't question where was I. He acted. They did not ask what my name is like you did, Moses, when I first appeared to you. They acted instead. Moses confronts God, where are you? What are you doing while your people are suffering? And God confronts Moses back with a question. Where are you? What have you done? Even after I made promises to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, even after they still faced challenges despite the promises I gave them, they didn't ask why, they acted. Because that's the Jewish answer. When bad things happen to good people, we act despite those things. When suffering exists, we don't stop and complain. We don't stop and ask, where is God? When we see suffering in the world, the Jewish response is to ask, where am I? What can I do? So when we look back on the past 2 years, those are the questions we have to account for. People, good people suffered. We shouldn't be asking, where was God in that? But where were we? Did I do what I could do to reach out to people who were lonely? Could I have done more to support those who were in need? When some members of our society, when they showed how extreme the depths of human selfishness can be, did I display to others the heights that humanity can rise to in the compassion? One good thing I will pray that comes from the past 2 years, that we'll learn to stop asking the former question and instead ask the second one. To act as if the world depended on our actions alone. The Zohar teaches, Leolam yira'eh adam atzmo ke'ilu ha'olam kulo talui bo. A person should always view themselves as if the entire world depends on them. If on their actions the world hangs in the balance. I'm proud to say that when I reflect on the past 2 years, despite all of the bad things that we've seen in the world, I've seen some wonderful things too. Some wonderful things in the news from different places. People acting with great compassion, care for their fellow human beings. I'm incredibly proud of the wonderful things I've seen here from our Beth Tikvah community. To name a few, if we remember our holiday fundraising campaigns, these last 2 years saw more success, more donations in the last 2 years than ever before. When we feared as what happened at many other synagogues and institutions, people would ask, why should I give when I can't attend? What can the synagogue do for me in this time? Our members asked the question, what can I do for the synagogue? Our members asked the question, not what can the synagogue do for me, but what can I do for others in our community? I've seen volunteers here at Beth Tikvah engaged in the last 2 years like never before. People organizing, delivering meals to members in need. I've seen as our community pivoted to online virtual services, to classes and programs, people get access that were previously cut off from participation. I've seen others help to teach them, to guide those who are not adept at technology, transitioning and blossoming in new fields. I've seen our members help each other, giving rides to appointments or delivering necessities. And even when people couldn't physically be together, I've seen our community support each other in times of loss. I've seen our community celebrate in times of joy. I've seen our members create new opportunities and experiences here at the synagogue for people to connect with each other safely. I've seen our members act in the world at large. Members who are doctors, paramedics, nurses, others who work on the front lines tirelessly taking care of patients, working without weekends and vacations. I've seen the same heroes devote their precious off hours, serving as a resource to the shul advising us on how we can best open our community safely. And I've watched them spend their days off giving vaccinations. I've seen others, whatever their professions are, members of our community use their skills, their expertise, not to turn a profit, but to help people in need. I'll share one specific story that always puts a smile on my face. And I think we all need reasons to smile. The daughter of one of our congregants had to pivot. When COVID shut down her current career field because people couldn't gather, she started a soup company with her kids. And their model is simple. They sell soup to those who can afford it, and they give soup to those who need it. It's one of the many incredible stories that define this past year. Not of people asking, why do bad things happen? Where is God? But asking, what can I do? Where am I? When I look back at how we as a community have acted these 2 years, and what the members of this sacred community have done for others, I'm filled with pride to be a part of it. It's easy to look back, to focus on the challenges, the difficulties, the struggles we faced. Because as we enter 2022, a lot feels the same as when we entered 2021. We cannot let how we remember 2021 be, though, defined by the parts that are beyond our control. We don't define the past year by asking, where was God? Why did bad things happen to good people? We look back at the past year and we ask, how did we respond to them? So as we begin a new year, it's a chance to reflect. It's natural there will be times that we ask the former question, the question Moses asks God, where were you? But instead this Shabbat, I want us to try to reflect, to try to choose that this year will be defined by a different question. God's answer to Moses, where was I? In just a moment, as we pray in the Musaf service, we talk about God as Somech Noflim, God who lifts up the fallen, Rofeh Cholim, God who heals the sick, Matir Asurim, God who releases the captive. We ask the question, where is God when good people suffer? The answer instead is, how do we heal those who are sick? How do we comfort them? How do we lift up those who are struggling to stand? How do we release those who are bound and captive? And that's the answer to where God is. So may we remember that question and make this upcoming year a year of joy, a year of connection, a year where we lift each other up together as a community, a year where we can find God in our own actions and in the actions of our fellow man. Shabbat Shalom.